Now, there's something else I want to test here. I want to test that the URL always has a valid protocol. So we always expect HTTPS or HTTP. Let's write a test that should fail. So let's copy this one and create a test. It requires the URL to have a valid protocol. So let's write Google and google.com. It should pass, right? I mean, it makes sense to pass. But let's see what happens. We should still expect to see no site because it's supposed to fail. And we only want to make sure the URL has an error. Let's run this test and see what happens. So it fails because it's finding one site when it should find 0 sites. Let's go to our file and implement it. What I am going to use here is a very simple custom rule. And to create a custom rule, you just need to type artisan make rule, and let's call it valid protocol. So we are going to say that we expect a valid protocol as well. Let's import it. Now let's go to this class, and this is really fun. I like to call this derived test. So we are testing the sites controller, but right now we are going to test the valid protocol because we created a new class, we created a new object, and we need to test it. So we are going to create a unit test for this class. Let's type make test. This is within app roles. So let's say roles, valid protocol test. And let's pass in the unit flag. Let's go to valid protocol test. Let's get rid of this. You can see that it does not implement the database transaction trait. We are not going to need a database in this case, so no worries. And let's write a test. It only allows HTTP or HTTPS. This is going to be a very simple test. Let's say we are going to use this method called passes. So take a look at this, see how simple it is. Let's create a new valid protocol. And then we can just use assert equals to make sure this has passes. We can say assert equals, assert true, valid protocol passes. And let's see with the order of the arguments, attribute value. The attribute is going to be URL, and we can pass google.com. Let's copy this and paste. HTTP should also pass. Now, HTTPS google.com like this shouldn't pass. This shouldn't pass. FTP shouldn't pass. We just have to give it some test cases. So we know this shouldn't pass. And what else shouldn't pass? Well, I think that pretty much covers it. Well, let's add one more just to, be safe like this. So we know those two should pass. We know the rest shouldn't. So let's just change this. I'm just going to change this to assert false. And okay, we have a test. Let's run this. It fails. No, it's true. We're not returning anything. Let's return true for now and see what happens. So it fails on line 17. So it gets to this line. Now we need to implement something. Let's say something like return. And this is real simple. I just want to make sure this string includes either HTTPS or HTTP. Or even better, it starts with, let's do one more test case. Let's say an edge case. So what if we had Google HTTPS like this? Let me show you guys. Here's what I first thought when I was writing this test. I was probably going to use str. Let's import it. This is a helper from Laravel. Contains, and let's see the signature because I do not remember. So haystack needles. So we need to make sure the value contains HTTP or HTTPS. I don't know how to write. Okay. Let's get rid of this test case for now. And it passes. But if we add the test case, it fails. It's very important to think of edge cases and add them as test cases. This is a test case that includes HTTPS, but it's in the wrong place. So we need to change this to starts with. Let's check the signature. It's the same signature. And let's run it. And it works. Awesome. We also want to test the validation message. So let's create a new test. It returns the proper message. And this is also very simple. Let's just copy this and write assert equals. We want the URL must include the protocol. And give an example. Like this. And we also need to say what we expect. And we just need to call the message method. Let's run it and see what we get. And they're not equal. So this is also a very simple test. It's not complex. It just ensures you that you have the proper validation message. You might think this is not important, but at some point someone might even delete this method by mistake or change the text or anything like it. When you have a simple test like this one, you always have to check two places when changing something. Let's run it now. And it's passing. Let's clear this. So we have the valid protocol class tested already. That's very, very good. And now we just need to test the controller. So we have our test here. Let's run it now. Let's see what we get. And it passes now. So we wrote to test when testing something else. I mean, we were testing the sites controller, but we created a new class. So we ended up testing it too. We now have a feature test here and a unit test here.